The reason why they had Colleen on is because they wanted to convey the human side of the story. If you want to convey the human side of the story, you speak to the victims. You don't speak to the person that hurt them. And if you do speak to the person that hurt them, you make sure that you very well understand the allegations that have been made against them so that when they lie to you, you can push back. So I admit, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a video on Colleen Ballinger this time around. If you're new here, I have spoken at length in the past about my own experiences, and because I have these experiences, I really want to give my opinion, my feedback, because I think very often the things that a lot of people are focusing on, the things that people are presenting as like the worst thing that she did or what have you, are often not the things in my mind that stick out. And I think there's a number of things that are just going underaddressed because realistically when things like this happen to you, they leave a big impact for a number of reasons that we're going to get into in this video. I'm not going to be detailing too much of my story here just because every time I do, the overlords do not necessarily like it, but I have done a video in the past where I go into it further if that's something that interests you. I'll leave that linked at the very end of this video. Please don't go immediately there now because then no one will see this video because YouTube will think everyone hates it, but I will leave it at the end so you don't forget. So I've been following Adam McIntyre's story ever since he initially came forward in 2020, and actually one of the first things that made me think about possibly doing like a commentary type content was just the number of like very bad takes that I was seeing, the number of people that were fooled by a very half-hearted and manipulative apology made by Colleen, the people that really should have looked into things further, i.e. a lot of commentary channels were not necessarily giving it the interest it deserves. But I do think just because the large majority of people that are making commentary content are not people who have lived through anything remotely similar, or if they have, they're not willing to be open about it and maybe they're not accepting how much it hurt them. A lot of times, one of the problems that I see, especially initially when Adam came forward, was a lot of people are saying, well, this happened to me and I'm fine, but a lot of times you're not really fine. You've just compartmentalized, and someday in the indeterminate future, that is going to be a wound that festers. And I think that's what happens to so many people, and it's so frustrating to see everything play out in a way that I fear makes it so much harder for the people that were hurt to actually like get any type of healing, relief, like feeling heard, feeling validated, feeling like no, it wasn't your fault, you didn't deserve this, the other person was wrong, feeling that other people are acknowledging your reality. It's so important, but often, especially when it comes to these things that happen on the internet, it's not happening, or it's not happening quickly. And also very often with Adam, I see it thrown around, oh, Adam's gay, so like she wasn't pursuing him for that. Like, no. It doesn't matter, and I think this is one of the biggest things that a lot of people get wrong. They assume, and I'm gonna have to use particular language, again because of the overlords, but you know, the thing that rhymes with brooming, there are a lot of different types. It is not all about trying to have intimate relations with somebody else. Sometimes it's just trying to get people to go out and defend you on the internet, trying to make people see a particular religious point of view. Like if you're in a cult, that is a type of the thing that rhymes with brooming. There are so many different types, and it doesn't have to ever be intended to be something intimate to harm somebody. And often because we have this idea that like there's this hierarchy and like the worst thing is to be physically hurt, and then next to that it's to have somebody that is the thing that rhymes with brooming you for an intimate way. It's not like that. Like, it's not right to have a hierarchy in general, because that just leads a lot of people, like, I spent 20 years of my life being like, well, at least XYZ didn't happen, at least it was only ABC, and because I was stuck in that mindset that I shouldn't feel like bad things happened to me because worse things happened to other people, that is how, under this current system, a system that is designed to facilitate harm to the most vulnerable members members of society. Like, if we had a sane system in place, children would have a lot more rights and a lot more control over their bodies, over their lives, but they don't. They are so very often treated as their parents' accessories. But that is a little bit of a tangent, and I'm sorry if I get a little bit on tangents. This is a very hard subject for me to discuss, so if I defer by taking things in weird places, that's why. So Tea Time, the Tea Time podcast with Miranda and Raven-Symone. Miranda, not Miranda Sings, but Raven-Symone's wife. They said that the reason that they were discussing this, the reason why they had Colleen on, is because they wanted to convey the human side of the story. If you want to convey the human side of the story, you speak to the victims. You don't speak to the person that hurt them. And if you do speak to the person that hurt them, you make sure that you very well understand the allegations that have been made against them, so that when they lie to you, you can push back. The fact that you just sat there and grinned while you let that woman lie in your face over and over and over again, further victimizing. I think, hot take, worse than anything that initially Colleen did to Adam is this whole fake apology tour that she's been going on, where she never actually apologizes really for anything, where she only seems to display emotions when it comes to discussing the things that she lost, and not the fact that there are so many people who looked up to her that were at bare minimum let down by her actions, if not were hurt by her actions. The only reason why a grown woman would want that level of support from a chat room of teenagers is because she is still trapped in this high school world where she was bullied and she was treated like trash, and now that she has money and now that she has a platform, she's gonna become the bully. Like, that is so much of what I see out of her. I see her time and time again being a bully. A lot of the things that leaked from the chat room, the Colleen's Weenies chat room that she had knowingly with a bunch of teenagers. Like, as a 42-year-old woman, I don't want to have direct contact with a random child. That's not my responsibility. That's not appropriate. Like, sure, if I was in, like, a situation where I was a party princess, I might interact with children while I'm at work, but I'm not going to talk to those children on the phone afterwards. Like, put yourself in any position, any job other than, like, this is a YouTuber, this is an influencer. The idea of texting with children, why? What? I'm not trying to say that children don't have interesting points of view sometimes, but you have your own children for that, lady. 3 times now, Colleen has come forward and made terrible excuses that involved a lot of lying and a lot of misrepresenting the truth of what happened in the situation, which just re-traumatizes and re-victimizes all of the people who once idolized her. Like, I think that's so few people are considering this idea that, like, it's not just that she was some random person. These children, she was their idol, and in so many cases she humiliated them, she exposed them to content that they were not at a stage developmentally where they were allowed to see it. I am shocked that she was allowed to show Trisha Paytas's Schmonly Schman's pictures to children and managed to not get in trouble for it. And, like, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Because Colleen is never going to actually come forward with a good apology because her lawyer is almost definitely advising her to deny it. Make this child look like he's a weirdo, and it's not your fault that you sent lingerie to a child, which you keep coming back, Colleen, and saying that he was a weirdo that wanted them. He said your clothes were ugly. He said, send me the dress. You kept joking about sending him the lingerie. And then when you were called out on it, you edited the stream to make it look as bad as possible, which honestly still didn't look that bad. Because you know what? If a child is like, hey, send me your lingerie, do you know what I'm gonna say? Hey, kid, that's inappropriate. I'm an adult. You were the adult in this situation. Even if he was a weirdo, which he's not, It is your responsibility as the adult to shut that down. And if you cannot take that responsibility, and if your reaction to this is going to be to double down and to keep hurting all of these people who are still very young, who have not been given an adequate chance to heal, because so much of what they've been through is not seen as being that bad by so many people who should support them and know better and care. And I've seen so many people over the years being like, well, Adam's annoying, or Adam has a gossip channel. Okay, so he deserves to have that happen to him? Is that what you're trying to say? Because that means you're a pretty terrible person too. Children don't have to be good people in your eyes to deserve safety. And one more thing about the lingerie, since that is what so many people seem to fixate on. When you actually watch the full live in context, she's like laughing about kikiing with her buddy Corey, like, oh, like his parents are gonna be like, why is this strange woman sending you underwear? Go watch, I'm going to link down a video below that is Adam going through the stream that led up to this, the actual full footage, and discussing everything, because she has lied so many times about this, and it's disgusting. And Colleen knew at the time it was disgusting. She just thought she was gonna get tee-hee laughs out of it, and she wanted to look cool in front of all of her teenage friends on the internet, so she's like, I'm gonna send him my panties. Then she organized a smear campaign against him, was working with other people that were fans of hers to make him look bad. Like, personally, I think that the continued, behavior afterwards, all of this denial, all of this smearing him as being a weirdo, all of this very gross stuff is worse psychologically for Adam. For years of his life, he had no idea who could actually be trustworthy, who actually was in his camp, who actually was going to support him when bad things happened, versus who was just going to bury him for lulz the second his favorite content creator turned on him. I see so many people dismissing so much of this, like, nothing physical happened, nothing physical happened. As somebody who has had both physical and emotional things happen, they both suck for different reasons and some of the same reasons. I do admit, though, at least other people will acknowledge that the physical stuff shouldn't happen to me. At least I can sit down and I can, come to terms with that. It's much harder to come to terms with all of the things that I was told for months on end by somebody who was trying to prime me to hurt me, to manipulate me. So many of my beliefs and my self-image, how I see myself, is based on how those men originally saw me, what they thought of me. I was told so many times that only an older guy was going to ever be able to appreciate me. I was told that I had darkness in me and only somebody else with darkness would ever see my light. That made me only date people that I saw as broken for many years. And here's the thing, because no one told me that, you need to actually go forth and confront these things that you were told by the people that hurt you. I didn't get to start processing any of that stuff until I was 38 years old. It really hasn't been until very recently that I was able to fully recognize what hurt me, how it hurt me, and start to fix and heal those things. The people who were trying to control and manipulate me did so by telling me things about my life, about myself, about dating, and about the world around me that were patently untrue and that they could best take advantage of. Another lie that I am sick of Colleen saying is I wasn't deliberately making content for children. When you have public events and most of the people there are children, it doesn't matter what your intent was. You are a child creator, but also I don't believe that, because in order to have any level of success, you need to know who your viewer is and cater your content for that viewer. YouTube makes it oh so easy to see the average age of the people that are seeing your content. She has got to have known. She has got to have known for so many years. I'm sorry if you don't want to be a child content creator. A, you need to make entertainment that is actually funny to adults. Like, all of the jokes about Miranda are just like very mean-spirited things to laugh at. Like, it's very ableist in a lot of senses. There's a lot of inconsistencies around Miranda's age and a lot of the things that are happening around her, like the whole weird relationship with her uncle, which, like, when Colleen actually went and was pregnant herself, she was still playing Miranda, and she was speaking in character as Miranda and, like, speaking as though it was the uncle that it's so messed up. It is not stuff that is going to be interesting to the average adult, or at least, like, not an adult that is aware that, like, hey, kids watching this, it's really normalizing a lot of stuff that is not very normal. And it doesn't surprise me that Colleen makes content where she's normalizing people in the family having bad behavior, because on one side of her siblings, she has the family bloggers. You know, they just let people make all of these horrible comments about this kid in the comments. They take forever to delete them, and it's like, hey, maybe you should filter a good number of these words so your children, who are old enough to probably have some access to the internet from time to time, or their friends or other people in their life, like, you are not doing anything to protect your children digitally. I personally believe in most cases family channels are very exploitative. It is not a surprise to me that Colleen Ballinger went from asking a lot of her child friends for content ideas and having Adam, a 14-year-old, manage her TikTok or manage her Twitter because she didn't know what was funny to kids anymore. But then when the main gravy train stopped, she really focused hardcore on the family vlog, which, your kids are very young, your kids are being put in a situation that I don't think is very good. Like, this woman has not really shown that she values children's safety in a country that actually made sense. This would be illegal. Like, it's kind of shocking that it's not yet. Colleen seems dependent on having other people's attention on her. She said on the podcast that, like, a lot of her self-worth was derived from how other people perceived her, and she's claiming now that she's past that and she doesn't need that anymore. But the fact that you're telling us that on a podcast interview tells me that you're not being sincere about it. And the fact that you're going to a podcast, which hilariously enough, for the first few hours of this podcast was up, it was like, Colleen finally gives her apology. She didn't apologize anywhere in that video. And to me, she needs to apologize first to the people that she hurt. And she needs to specify the things that she did that hurt them to make sure that people are aware that she actually knows. Because here's the thing. I honestly think that in a lot of ways, she still thinks that the worst thing that she did was, oh, tee-hee, I sent this weird kid some of my lingerie. Like, that is by no means the worst thing that you did. Colleen is relying on the fact that, A, the people that are interviewing her on this podcast have not really done a tremendous amount of research. They know, like, the most reported on points about things, but they clearly have not looked into any of the victims' like content about anything. Like, at least watch the Swoop doc or something like that before you go into a situation where, like, and what really gets me about them is they had initially posted like a little teaser the night before, and Adam had made some posts on his Instagram account about that. So a lot of his fans went and were like, this isn't the move. Like, why are you doing this? You still have time to say no. You still have time to not post it. Like, is this how desperate they are for views that they have to bring on Colleen Ballinger again? Like, it's hard for me to decide if it is her or Ned that is less repentant about the hurt they've caused. They definitely, I mean, maybe she is like Ned and she just needs everybody to write out a full victim impact statement so she can understand. But she's still going to try and minimize it and make it about poor little old her who had her career taken away. And the thing that I hate about this is if one person has like planted the seeds of being able to manipulate you in your brain, it makes it really easy for other people to identify those seeds, to notice those seeds, and to seek you out. Like I said earlier, the whole thing about like, oh, only somebody who's dark will ever see your light, and you're gonna need somebody older. Like, because I had these viewpoints, like older men would be like, oh, you need somebody older. Oh, you were told this by somebody who, oh yeah. It's a very good way to attract the absolute worst kind of people when you have these seeds planted in your brain and you don't get the realization, get the notice that, hey, these seeds are wrong, they're bad. Just because this person was your hero and you idolized them when you told them that, when they told you this, doesn't mean that this is like a fundamental part of your personality, or that you should believe this, or that they were true. This is something they told you to hurt you, to manipulate you. Very seldom are the people that are out to do good things in your life going to recognize and tell you that. But bad people are going to recognize that those seeds have been planted, and they're going to come along and they're going to water them. There was 20 years of just really negative, bad relationships that were not good for me, and like a lot of the people that I was in relationships with made light of the things that had happened to me, just continuing this cycle of me not being able to realize that a lot of the things that I believed about myself came from people that did not have my best interests in hand and only cared about their own self-interest. And that because they weren't able to fully nurture the seeds that they had planted, other people had then come along my entire life, noticed that these plants were sprouting out of my head, and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll water those plants since somebody's left them alone. You see this very frequently in religion and spiritual abuse as well. Like, some of the hurt that happened to me happened within the Catholic Church, and I've had a number of like church groups over the years who have been like, oh, we're going to be a healing place for you, when in reality they just were going to take advantage of all of the seeds that had been planted by the Catholic Church. Not to mention, very often these people choose kids that they can tell are insecure, kids that they can tell have some level of mental health issue, kids that they can tell are, you know, probably neurodivergent to some degree. Very often because of this, we may have a fractured relationship with some of the people in our support structure. I was very depressed when I was targeted, and my parents didn't really know what to do. I mean, this was the 90s. There weren't nearly as many options back then. So I already had that wedge, and the people that sought to hurt me saw that wedge and they drove it further. And they established themselves as the only person who truly got me, who really understood my humor, who really got who I was at heart. And it wasn't that they knew me and got me. It was that I was a child and they knew how to take advantage of that. You get the, oh, you're so mature for your age. That's why boys and girls your age don't get you. And like, one of the things that they had really screwed me up on was the fact that like I had been having feelings about a girl that I knew, and I told, I'm going to call him Bob for purposes of not saying, you know, the P word or his real legal name, but Bob would tell me that, oh, no, you know, you really need a manly man. Like, what kind of manly man hurts a kid like that, though? And I mean, that really was one thing that, coupled with like a lot of other things that happened in Catholic school at around the same time, led me to stay in the closet through most of my life and not have the option of a relationship that would actually fulfill me. And very often this person has a lot of conversations with you. They are spending a decent amount of time establishing a friendship, establishing themselves as the person that you go to when you're having a bad day, when bad things are happening in your life, when you're not willing, you know, you're not able to handle the world, whatever it may be. And over the course of so many of those conversations, it's hard to think back to everything that I was told about myself and the world that wasn't true. And it's very often I will have a belief and I'll voice it aloud, and then like my therapist will be like, okay, why do you believe that? And I think about it and I'm like, oh, well, Bob told me back in the day, and no one has ever really looked to counter that. So that's still what I believe today in my 40s. And I just like so much of this, there's so much going on with that whole family that is coming off as very toxic. And I do think to a degree that a lot of stuff has been normalized in Colleen's mind that is not normal. And I do think to a degree that is part of why she is acting the way she is and will not accept that she's a bad person. Because if she accepts that she's a bad person and that she hurts somebody, she will have to accept that other people in her life are bad people that have hurt people. One of the things that is very difficult for me to accept is that Colleen, a mother, an aunt, someone who is around children a lot, could act in this fashion towards Adam and expect that he would be okay. I say, and I have gotten criticism on this in the past and whatever, but I do think that sometimes when people are having internet beef, one person will push another person as much as they possibly can because they are hoping that that person is going to, one way or another, remove themselves from the equation. And I very much think, especially with knowing how old Adam was a fan of hers that had really looked up to her. You know, she took away a lot of his support structure in turning some of his friends in the community against him. Like, there were a number of ways that she hurt him, and I sit there and I think, and justifiably, I'm not a parent, but a lot of my friends have kids that are around that age, and I sit there and I think about, because for me, when I was going through everything initially with the person that hurt me, Bob, I was so humiliated, I was so hurt, I was so confused, I was so broken, and that almost really led me to make a permanent decision that I couldn't take back. And as I look at this situation from outside, I'm just like, if you are an adult and you have any understanding about kids and you're still putting one through this, you're just hoping something bad happens. You were hoping. Like, I refuse to believe that she just thought all of this would happen and it would be hunky-dory and he'd be happy and everything would be good. You know, call me melodramatic if you want, but like, I very much believe, especially with this coming back again, doubling down again, like, could you not just stay on your family channel and do whatever it is that you're doing right now and leave your victims alone? There was no need to bring this up now. There's no need to bring this back. The only reason is because you're hoping that people are not going to look at the full video clips. You're hoping that now the people are not going to go back and see what the victims are saying. You're hoping that the people are not going to believe the victims. Like sometimes the absolute worst people are the people that end up in positions like she is. And like, realistically, I think a lot of the reason that that character was created was out of a very mean place. Like, I almost feel bad for Colleen sometimes, just because I know that in order for a person to act the way that she acts, there is just such a deep well of insecurity, a deep well of not loving herself, not believing in herself, not valuing herself. Like, just like I said in the Ned video, like, you don't have that, like, you don't act like that when you care about yourself, because like, a lot of times we reflect into the world like what we view ourselves. Like, sure, a lot of people like don't like themselves, but they don't hurt others, but there are some people that like really reflect, like, if they don't like themselves, they don't want anybody else being happy and liking themselves either. I think that's most of what I had to say about this. I'm trying not to have this get incredibly long, because that makes the videos super hard to edit and everything. So I hope that this was still interesting to a degree. I don't usually talk about things like this. I usually talk about pop media, pop culture, the things that are influencing us, interpreting women's art on a deeper level, and especially looking to appreciate the artists themselves in their work, because very often women's art is always brought back to being about a man. I think very often it is layered and it's about a lot of things at one time. If any of that is interesting to you, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps me out a lot as a small channel. I don't know where I was in this sign off because I'm tired, but bye.